here. Okay, good afternoon. Can you hear me in the jail?
We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Is Haley Young there? On the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Haley Jordan Young, this is file number 20-00837FY. Counsel appearance, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. Bryce Mydell, student attorney, requesting permission to practice law pursuant to the MCR 8.120 under the supervision of Assistant Public Defender Lauren Sutter.
Thank you. Permission is granted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ma'am, you're welcome. Ma'am, are you Haley Young?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Mr. Young, today's the date set for an arraignment. I have a felony complaint here. It alleges that on or about November 1st, 2019 at 6041 South Pennsylvania Avenue, which is in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, that you did allegedly, contrary to law, commit the act in count 1 of controlled substance delivery, manufacture, that of cocaine, heroin, or another narcotic less than 50 grams. It alleges that you did possess with the intent to deliver less than 50 grams of a mixture containing the controlled substance heroin. Contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 333.7401-2A4. That's a felony, and the maximum penalty is 20 years and or $25,000 in fines. A consecutive sentence may be imposed for any other felony conviction, and unless sentenced to more than 1 year in prison, the court shall impose license sanctions pursuant to MCL 333.7408A. Count 2 alleges that you committed the act of controlled substance possession of methamphetamine or ecstasy, that you did knowingly or intentionally possess methamphetamine contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 333.74032BI. That's a felony, and the maximum penalty is 10 years and or $15,000 in fines. Unless sentenced to more than 1 year in prison, the court shall impose license sanctions according to the law. There's a count 3 of controlled substance possession of cocaine, heroin, or other narcotic less than 25 grams. It alleges that you did knowingly or intentionally possess less than 25 grams of a mixture containing the controlled substance heroin, contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 333.74032A5. That's a felony with the maximum penalty being 4 years and or $25,000 in fines. Unless sentenced to more than 1 year in prison, the court shall impose sanctions pursuant to MCL 333.7408A. Do you understand each of the charges that were read there today, as well as the maximum penalty associated with each charge?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you have the right to be represented by counsel. You are represented today for the purposes of your arraignment by representatives from the Office of the Public Defender. So you have the right to have an attorney represent you at each stage of this criminal proceeding. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, but you economically qualify, one can be appointed to represent you at the expense of the public. Are you requesting court-appointed counsel, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say verbally and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a jury trial, or you can elect to have a bench trial if all parties consent. And at the time of your trial, you have the right then to have the prosecution prove each element of the charge being brought against, or the charges being brought against you. They have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand your trial rights, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
You have the right to have a preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of your preliminary examination, you have the right to have the prosecution establish probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to charge you with that crime. Do you understand your right as it relates to a preliminary examination?
Yes.
You're currently scheduled for probable cause conference on November 5th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. You have a preliminary examination scheduled for November 12th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. Both of those will be before Judge Stacia Buchanan in courtroom 2. Did you get a copy of your notice to appear?
Yes.
Okay, and you also have the right to be considered for pretrial release from custody. We'll address bond in just a moment. Are you currently employed?
No, I'm not.
Okay. How do you support yourself? Are you on SSI or getting any other benefits?
No, I'm actually staying with my parents right now.
Okay. What's your home address?
It's 13455 Dawn Dew Drive, DeWitt, Michigan 48820, and it's apartment 21.
Okay, you said 13455. Can you spell that street, please?
DAWNDEW.
In DeWitt?
Yes.
What's your zip code?
48820.
And what's your phone number?
517-763-8180.
Okay, for the purposes of today's arraignment, how would your client like to plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
The court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Are you currently on probation or parole?
No, I'm not.
Did you want to address bond, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. The defendant does have family here, sister, son, her parents. She lived here all of her life. The defendant does appear to have prior convictions, but those were non-violent crimes and therefore do not have a propensity for violence. She is not a threat to the community. Given what she is being charged with, the underlying charges are not assaultive in nature. It does not involve any elements of violence or threats of violence. It's more something that would affect her. So we will ask the court to consider either a high PR bond or a low 10% bond. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. According to my records, the defendant is currently on probation out of Clinton County. Is that not accurate?
Oh, okay. That may be so. Sorry.
Ma'am, are you not on probation?
Well, I'm sorry. I was under the impression that it wasn't until I got released from jail. So I just got sentenced yesterday, but I guess yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, because the defendant appears to be under supervision out of Clinton County, at least she will be under supervision under Clinton County. I think a low 10% bond will be appropriate in this matter. These are very serious offenses. They carry a very high possible penalty, highest being a maximum penalty of 20 years. Court will issue a bond of $2,500, 10%. While out on bond, ma'am, you're not to use, purchase, or possess any drugs or alcohol unless you have a valid prescription for the drug. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You're not to travel outside of the state without prior approval of this court. You're going to be required to report to pretrial services within 48 hours of your release. You'll report to them weekly, okay?
Okay.
You're not to purchase or possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You need to make sure you come to all of your future court dates and be there on time. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Do you have any questions about your
No.
bond conditions, ma'am?
No, I don't.
Counsel, any additional matters for the record?
No, Your Honor, but I have one question. How much was the PR bond, the 10% for? Sorry.
It was a 2,500, 10%.
2,000. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Thank you. You're all set, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Alan Parker. Are you Alan Parker?
Yes.
You are on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Alan Jr. Parker. File number is 21-02026 FY. Counsel appearance.
Oh, yes, Your Honor. Bryson Bedell, student attorney, practicing law pursuant to MCR 8.120 under the supervision of Assistant Public Defender Lawrence Sutter.
Thank you. Today's the date, Mr. Parker, that's set for an arraignment. I have here a felony complaint. States here that on or about December 4th, 2020, in the area of 3614 West Miller Road, Apartment F, City of Lansing, Ingham County, that you did allegedly, contrary to law, commit the act in count 1 of domestic violence. It alleges that you did make an assault or an assault and battery upon a Jasmine Carter, an individual with whom you had a dating relationship, and that this was done contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 750.812. Restitution is possible as this offense may have resulted in damage to another individual's property or physical injury or death to another individual. That's a misdemeanor with the maximum penalty being 93 days and or $500 in fines, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. There's a third offense notice. It says, take notice that the defendant was previously convicted of assaulting or assaulting and battering his or her spouse, former spouse, an individual with whom he or she had a dating relationship, an individual with whom he or she had a child in common, or a resident or former resident of his or her household, or of knowingly assaulting a pregnant individual by violating Michigan Compiled Law 750.81 on or about April 6, 2005, and by violating Michigan Compiled Law 750.813 on or about March 7th, 2013, and therefore upon conviction will be subject to enhanced sentence under MCL 750.815. That makes the maximum penalty in this charge 5 years in prison and or $5,000 in fines. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under MCL 750.506A if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. Do you understand the maximum penalty, sir, and the charge that's been brought before you at this time?
Yes.
You have the right to be represented by counsel. You are represented by the Office of the Public Defender for the purposes of your arraignment today. You have the right to have an attorney with you and representing you at each stage of this criminal proceeding. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, you can request court-appointed counsel to be appointed, and if you're economically eligible, one will be appointed. Is he requesting court-appointed counsel, sir?
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
Mr. Parker, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say verbally and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty. You have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of preliminary examination, you have the right to have the prosecution establish their burden of probable cause. That is, probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to charge you with that crime. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You also have the right to proceed to trial in this matter, and you have the right to have a jury trial. At the time of trial, you have the right to have the prosecution then meet their burden of proving each element of the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand those rights?
Yes.
You're currently scheduled for a probable cause conference before Judge Louise Alderson. It's scheduled for Friday, November 5th, 2021 at 9 o'clock in the morning. You have a preliminary examination before Judge Alderson, and that is scheduled for Friday, November 12th, 2021 at 9:30. Did you get a copy of your notices to appear?
Yes.
Okay, you also have the right to be considered for pretrial release from custody, but we'll address your bond in just a moment. Are you currently employed?
No.
How do you support yourself?
Social Security, and I personally train, and I get Social Security.
Okay. What's your home address?
2343 Portage Road, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
What road?
I said 2343 Portage Road, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Did you say Portage?
Yeah, Portage Road, yep.
Okay, because you have a mask on, so it's a little difficult to understand what you're saying. 2343 Portage Road.
Kalamazoo, Michigan, yep.
Okay, and what's your zip code?
49003.
What's your phone number?
269-599-5328.
For the purposes of today's arraignment, how does your client want to plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Did you want to address bond?
I do, Your Honor. Thank you. So Mr. Parker informed me that he has never failed to appear to court, and so appearing to his next court hearing will not be an issue. Mr. Parker does have dependents, and so the defendant is likely to go to court on time and obey court orders. Mr. Parker does have family here. He's not a threat to himself or to the public, and so we will ask the court to consider a high PR bond and, possibly a teether as well, if need be. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. It took me quite some time to get through the entirety of his criminal history.
Okay.
It's that extensive. I don't know that I've ever seen a criminal history as long as this criminal history, and there's multiple violent convictions on there. The allegations in this are also violent in nature. The court does believe there is a threat to the public safety. A PR bond will not be granted. Bond will be issued in the amount of $5,000, 10%. While out on bond, you're not to have contact directly or indirectly with Jasmine Carter. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So that means no calls, no phone calls, no letters, no DMs. You can't ask anybody else to send the message for you. Absolutely no communication of any kind. Is that clear?
Yes.
Not to be within 1,500 feet of wherever Miss Carter lives, works, or goes to school. I'm also going to order GPS tether with victim notification. You need to make sure you report to all your future court dates. When you post bond, you're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to use, purchase, or possess drugs or alcohol unless you have a valid prescription for the drug. You're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to purchase or possess a firearm. You need to report to pretrial services within 48 hours. You'll be reporting to them weekly. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about your bond?
No.
Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. You're all set. Jaylen Waters. Are you Jaylen Waters, sir?
Yes, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, we're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Jaylen Maurice Waters, file number 21-02950FY. Can I have your appearance, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Bryson Midell, student attorney, practicing law pursuant to MCR 8.120 under the supervision of Assistant Public Defender Lawrence Sutter.
Thank you. Today's the date that's set for arraignment. Mr. Waters, I have a felony complaint here. It alleges that on or about October 26, 2021, at the area of 1138 West Edgewood, Apartment 1 in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan, that you did allegedly in count 1 commit the act of assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder or by strangulation, and that you did make an assault upon Arabella Chen by strangulation or suffocation, and that this was done contrary to MCL 750.84. That's a felony with the maximum penalty being 10 years or $5,000 in fines. Your DNA is to be taken upon arrest, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed under MCL 750.506A if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. There's a count 2 of domestic violence. It alleges that you did make an assault or assault and battery upon an Arabella Chen, an individual with whom you have a dating relationship, that this was done contrary to MCL 750.812. Restitution is possible in that offense, as the offense may have resulted in damage to another individual's property or physical injury or death to another individual. That is a misdemeanor, and the maximum penalty is 93 days and or $500 in fines. Again, a consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. There's a second offense notice. It says, take notice that the defendant was previously convicted of assaulting and battering his or her spouse, former spouse, an individual with whom he or she had a dating relationship, an individual with whom he or she had a child in common, or a resident or former resident of his or her household, or of knowingly assaulting a pregnant individual by violating MCL 750.812 on or about September 13th, 2017, and therefore upon conviction will be subject to an enhanced sentence under MCL 750.814. That makes the domestic violence a misdemeanor with the maximum penalty of 1 year and or $1,000. Again, a consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. Mr. Waters, do you understand the charges and the maximum penalty associated with those charges?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
You have the right to be represented by counsel. You do have representation today from the Office of the Public Defender. You have the right to have an attorney represent you at each stage of this criminal proceeding. If you cannot afford to hire your own attorney, you can request court-appointed counsel to be appointed at the expense of the public. Is he requesting court-appointed counsel?
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
Mr. Waters, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to proceed to a preliminary examination. You have the right to have that preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of preliminary examination, you have the right to have the prosecution establish the burden of probable cause. So that's a probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to charge you with that crime. Do you understand those rights?
Yes.
You have the right to proceed to a jury trial, and at the time of trial, you have the right to have the prosecution then prove each element of the charge against you. They have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have the right to plead guilty, you have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. How would your client like to plead today, counsel?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Waters, what's your home address?
My address is 1266 West Edgewood Boulevard, apartment 7.
Okay, say that again a little slower.
1266 West Edgewood Boulevard, apartment 7.
That's in the same apartment complex as the alleged victim in this matter?
No, she lives in California. I just came here from California. Like, that person not even here right now. I was picked up at a hotel. That address that they just said 1138, that's not even where I was picked up or where no crime happened. None of that. I got picked up at the Red Roof Inn. That's why I was like, where did this address come from?
Sir, I'm an attorney from the Public Defender's Office. I'm going to ask you to stop talking about the facts of this case at this point.
Okay, so you don't know who lives at 1138 West Edgewood Boulevard, apartment 1?
Yes, that's my baby mother's house.
That's Arabella Chen?
No, that's what I'm telling you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I was trying to clarify here. Whose address is 123 Figueroa Street in Los Angeles?
That was my current address before I came back to Michigan.
Okay. Okay, that's your, okay, so then you came back to Michigan and you now are staying at the 1266 West Edgewood?
Yes.
Okay. Are you employed?
I'm investing right now. I do stocks and invest. I'm in school.
Where are you in school?
SMC Community College, Santa Monica Community College.
Thank you. What's your phone number?
424-224-3729.
Okay, you're currently scheduled for probable cause conference before Judge Alderson. That's going to be Friday, November 5th at 9 a.m. And then you have a preliminary examination before Judge Alderson on Friday, November 12th at 9:30. Did you get a copy of that notice?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you want to address bond?
I do, Your Honor. So Mr. Waters does have a good record of showing up to court. And yes, Mr. Waters is not employed, but he is currently a student taking classes online, as he referenced. Mr. Waters does have 3 dependents that depend on him. And so Mr. Waters is likely to go to court on time and obey court orders. Mr. Waters does have family here. He was born and raised here, with the exception to a brief moment in time when he was in California. And so we will ask the court to consider a high PR or a low 10%, Your Honor, at this time. Thank you.
The court will issue a bond of 5,000 personal recognizance with a GPS tether and victim notification. While out on bond, sir, you're not to engage in any violent or threatening behavior. You're not to use, purchase, or possess alcohol or drugs unless you have a prescription for the drug. You're not to travel outside of the state of Michigan without approval from the court. You're not to have contact directly or indirectly with the alleged victim in this matter, Arabella Chen. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not to be within 1,500 feet of wherever she lives, works, or goes to school. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon, and you need to report to pretrial services within 48 hours of your release. You need to report to them weekly, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question.
Yes.
The person that this is against is called a flight back to my previous residence where all my stuff is getting sent here from California. So what should I do about this?
You should probably talk to your attorney about that.
Save it. Thank you.
No problem. You have any other questions, sir?
No, ma'am.
Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
You're all set, Mr. Waters. Geno Garcia. Okay, are you Geno Garcia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Geno Devontae Garcia. The file number is 21-02951FY. Counsel appearance.
Attorney Lawrence Sutter appearing today on behalf of Mr. Garcia for the purposes of arraignment.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Today's the date set for an arraignment. I have a felony complaint here. It alleges that on or about October 26, 2021, at the area of West Holmes in South Waverly, that you did, contrary to law, commit the act in count 1 of weapons carrying concealed. It alleges that you did carry a dangerous weapon, to wit, a pistol, whether concealed or otherwise, in a vehicle operated or occupied by said defendant, to wit, was a 2013 Chevrolet Impala. Now, this is contrary to MCL 750.227. That's a felony with the maximum penalty being 5 years and or $2,500 in fines. Mandatory forfeiture of the weapon or device is required under the law. Also, the court shall order law enforcement to collect DNA identification profiling sample before sentencing or disposition if not taken at the time of arrest. Do you understand the charge there, sir, and the maximum penalty associated with the charge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have the right to be represented by counsel. You are represented by the Public Defender's Office today for the purpose of your arraignment. But you have the right to have an attorney represent you at each stage of this criminal proceeding. You have the right to have counsel appointed at the expense of the public if you are unable to afford to hire your own attorney, but you qualify for court-appointed counsel. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Is he requesting court-appointed counsel?
He is, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Garcia, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty, or you can stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of your preliminary examination, you have the right to have the prosecution bring evidence to establish their burden of probable cause. So they have to establish probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to charge you with the crime. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You then have the right to proceed to a trial. You have the right to a jury trial. And at the time of trial, you have the right to have the prosecution prove each element of the charge against you. They have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand your rights as it relates to trial.
Yes, I do.
You have the right to be considered for trial release from custody. We'll address bond in a moment. Are you currently employed?
Under the table job.
Doing what under the table?
Landscaping, like trees and grass and whatnot, lawn care.
Okay. What's your home address?
917 West Oakland.
In City of Lansing?
Yes.
What's your zip code?
48910.
And your phone number?
517-897-5609.
For the purposes of his arraignment, how does he want to plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
The court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf, sir. You're currently scheduled for probable cause conference before Judge Stacia Buchanan. It's scheduled for Friday, November 5th at 2 p.m. You have a preliminary examination before Judge Buchanan on Friday, November 12th at 2 p.m. Did you get a copy of those notices, sir?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you have any questions at this time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you want to address court on bond, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much. As Mr. Garcia said, he does live in Lansing. He's a lifelong resident of the area. To that, he does live with his mom in the area. He also referenced the fact that he does work. He does side jobs, landscaping, and doing lawn care for his uncle, who also lives in the area. He's been doing that work with his uncle for about 10 years, he tells me. He also informs me he has no prior assaultive criminal record. He believes he might have one failure to appear, but says that was some years ago. And so I don't believe at this point he is a flight risk. Given his ties to the community and the fact that this is inherently a non-violent crime, I don't also believe he's a danger to himself or the community. So I will be requesting a personal recognizance bond be set for Mr. Garcia. Thank you.
Thank you. The court will issue a bond of $2,500 personal recognizance. While out on bond, sir, you need to make sure you appear to court for all your future court dates, okay?
Okay.
You're not to purchase or possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to use alcohol or drugs without a prescription. Not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You need to report to pretrial services within 48 hours, and you're going to be reporting to them once a week, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions at this time?
No, ma'am.
Any additional matters for the record?
Nothing additional. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're all set, sir. Michael Husband Jr. Are you Michael Husband Jr.?
Yes.
Okay, we're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Michael Ladon Husband Jr., file number 21-02952 FY, counsel appearance.
Attorney Lawrence Sutter appearing today on behalf of Mr. Husband for the purposes of arraignment.
Okay, and Mr. Husband, today's the date set for your arraignment. I have a felony complaint that alleges that on or about October 26, 2021, at the area of West Holmes and South Waverly in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, that you did allegedly in count 1 commit the act of weapons carrying concealed, that you did carry a dangerous weapon, that being a pistol, whether concealed or otherwise, in a vehicle operated or occupied by said defendant, to wit, a 2013 Chevrolet Impala. This was done contrary to Michigan Compile Law 750.227. That's a felony, and the maximum penalty is 5 years or $2,500 in fines. There's a mandatory forfeiture of the weapon or device required under the law. Count 2 is a weapons, firearms possession by felon. It alleges that you did possess a firearm when ineligible to do so because you have been convicted of delivery of a controlled substance, which is a specified felony, and the requirements for regaining eligibility had not been met. This is contrary to MCL 750.224F. That's a felony with a maximum penalty being 5 years and or $5,000 in fines. Mandatory forfeiture of the weapon or device is required under the law. Do you understand the charges there, sir, and the maximum penalty?
Yes.
You have the right to be represented by an attorney. You're represented by the Office of the Public Defender today, but you have the right to have an attorney representing you at each stage of these court proceedings. If you cannot afford to hire your own attorney, you have the right to request court-appointed counsel, and if you qualify, one can be appointed at the expense of the public. Are you requesting court-appointed counsel?
Yes.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of your exam, you have the right to have the prosecution bring sufficient evidence to establish probable cause, and that's probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to charge you with a crime. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
You have the right to proceed to a trial, and you have a right to have a jury trial. You have the right at the time of jury trial to have the prosecution bring sufficient evidence to prove each element of the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand those rights?
Yes.
You have the right to be considered for pre-trial release. We'll address bond in a moment. Do you have any questions at this time?
No.
Okay, how would your client like to plead today?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
The court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Sir, what's your home address?
4425 Cadburn Drive, Lansing, Michigan 48911.
Are you currently employed?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, how are you supporting yourself?
Well, I was working, but I haven't been working lately, so I'm just using some money that I have left over from working.
Okay, what's your phone number?
269-369-7488.
You're currently scheduled for probable cause conference for Judge Stacia Buchanan. It's going to be Friday, November 5th at 2 p.m. And your preliminary examination will be before Judge Buchanan Friday, November 12th at 2 p.m. Because if you are a co-defendant in this matter, I'm assuming one of them will have to get conflict counsel. Correct, Ms. Sutter?
That's correct, Your Honor. I don't know which at this point, but yes.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I quickly ask the name of the person so we can look them up? The co-defendant?
I'm sorry?
May I quickly ask the name of the co-defendant?
The co-defendant was Geno Garcia.
Thank you.
No problem. Did you want to address bond, counsel?
Thank you. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Husband does tell me that he is a recent resident of Lansing. He was born and raised here, and as he did reference, he's recently moved back. He was living in Tennessee and he moved back here in June. He also referenced that in terms of his employment. He was employed in Tennessee, and given his move back to Michigan, that's where he lost his employment. My understanding is he is on the lookout for further employment, but as of now is not. He does have children in the area, and as I stated, he is originally from the area, so I don't believe he's a flight risk at this point. He did have one prior failure to appear that he reports to me during COVID last year with a driving while license suspended charge, and I believe it's a matter of just technical stuff at the beginning of using Zoom during COVID that was a result in FTA. He also reports the only prior assaultive record he has is in 2010, so it's been a number of years. I don't believe at this point he continues to be a danger to himself or the public. Given that these inherently are nonviolent crimes, and he does have children in the area that he cares for, I'm going to be requesting a PR bond be set for Mr. Husband. Thank you.
Court will issue a bond of $7,500 personal recognizance while out on bond, sir. You need to make sure you come to court for all your future court dates. You understand that?
Yes.
And you have a copy of your notice to appear, correct?
Yes.
While out on bond, you're not to travel outside of the state without approval of the court. You're not to purchase or possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You're not to use, purchase, or possess alcohol or drugs unless you have a valid prescription. You're not to engage in any assaultive behavior. You need to make sure you're going to report to court to pretrial services within 48 hours. You're going to be reporting every week, okay?
All right.
Do you have any questions today?
No.
Any additional matters for the record?
Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're all set, sir. Joshua James. Are you Joshua James?
Yes.
On the record in the matter, the people of the state of Michigan versus Joshua Lee James and file number 21-02935. I'm sorry, it's 953 FY counsel appearance.
Attorney Lawrence Sutter appearing today on behalf of Mr. James for the purposes of arraignment.
Mr. James, today is the date set for arraignment. I have here a felony complaint, and it alleges that on or about October 27th, 2021, at the area of 222 Seymour Avenue, that's in the city of Lansing in Ingham County, state of Michigan, that you did commit the act of larceny from a motor vehicle, that you did commit the offense of larceny by stealing or unlawfully removing or taking a telephone that was in or on a motor vehicle that belonged to a Jelani McGadney, that this was done contrary to MCL 750.356A. It's a felony and the maximum penalty is 5 years and or $10,000 in fines. You understand the charge and the maximum penalty there, sir?
Yes.
You're represented by the Office of the Public Defender today, but you have the right to have an attorney represent you at each stage of this criminal proceeding. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney and you economically qualify, an attorney can be appointed to represent you at the expense of the public. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
Is he requesting court-appointed counsel?
He is, Your Honor.
Mr. James, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty. You have the right to stand mute. And you have the right to proceed to a preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of your examination, you have the right to have prosecution establish the burden of probable cause. So they have to establish probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to charge you with that crime. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You have the right to proceed to a jury trial in this matter. At the time of jury trial, you have the right to have the prosecution then prove each element of the charge against you. They have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You're currently scheduled for probable cause conference before Judge Louise Alderson. It's going to be Friday, November 5th at 9:30 in the morning. Your preliminary examination is going to be before Judge Alderson on Friday, November 12th at 10 a.m. Did you get a copy of your notice to appear?
Yes.
Okay. How would your client like to plead, counsel?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
The court will enter a plea of not guilty for you, sir. What's your current home address?
712 Jennison, 712 North Jennison.
712 North Jennison?
Yes.
Are you currently employed?
No.
What's your phone number?
I don't have a phone.
Did you want to address bond?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. As Mr. James said, he is currently living on North Jennison. That, of course, to me, is with his parents, who have been in the area for quite some time. So he does have some contact with the community. I do understand that he has a fairly extensive criminal history, but as far as I am seeing, none of it is violent in nature. So he's not a danger to himself or the community. I'm also not seeing any failures to appear. And despite the fact that he tends to have somewhat transitional housing, he doesn't appear to be a flight risk. Given that, I'm going to be requesting a personal recognizance bond be set for Mr. James. Thank you.
Mr. James, is it going to be a problem for you to get back here to court?
No.
Okay, you don't have an electronic device, so if there are proceedings that would allow you to appear via Zoom, you can't do that. So your probable cause conference, you're going to need to come in person, okay?
Yes.
Because that's the best way that an attorney is going to be able to reach you, because you don't have a phone, and you've requested court-appointed counsel. They have to be able to discuss your case with you, okay? So make sure you get here on time on the 5th of November. I'm going to grant the request of personal recognizance bond. The bond will be issued at $2,000 personal recognizance. While on bond, sir, you're not to use any drugs or alcohol, okay?
Yes.
Unless you have a valid prescription for the drug. You're not to engage in any assaultive behavior. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You need to report to pretrial services, sir, within 48 hours. You should have received information on how to contact them. Did you get that information? If not, the jail will make sure you get it before you leave, okay?
Yes.
Do you have any questions today?
No.
Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank you. You're all set, Mr. James. Brian Cheney. On the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Brian Howard Cruz Cheney. The file number is 20-02365. Okay, counsel, are you appearing on this?
Yes, Bryson Midell, student attorney, practicing law pursuant to MCR 8.120 under the supervision of Assistant Public Defender Lauren Sutter.
Okay. Mr. Cheney, you're here because you failed to appear back on the 18th of October, in which you were scheduled for an arraignment on a probation violation. I have here a request and summons for probation violation. It alleges that you failed to report to probation on your scheduled report day of September 2nd, 2021. It says you failed to pay fines and costs, that you have a total amount due of $425. States that you have failed to begin testing on July 20th, 2021, as referred by the probation officer. And on July 12th, 2021, you were referred to Adam. There's also a violation that you failed to obtain an assessment and follow recommendations for services, that you failed to pay the fees and provide proof of completion to the court, and that you were referred to Mid-Michigan Recovery Services back on July 12, 2021 for intake, assessment, and follow-up. And so you have the right to have a contested hearing on this probation violation. You have the right to be represented by counsel for the violation hearing. If you are found to be guilty or in violation of the court-ordered terms of your probation, sir, your probation can be terminated. You can be sentenced to a term of jail time, or your probation can be extended, and you can be subject to increased probationary sanctions. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Are you requesting court-appointed counsel to represent you for your probation violation?
Yes.
Okay, so the court will enter a plea of not guilty since you are requesting court-appointed counsel. I will set this matter for a hearing on the violations. This is our case. This matter will be set for hearing on Monday, November 1st. At 1:30. And you can appear in person. Do you
Yes,
understand
ma'am.
that, sir?
Yes, I do.
What's your current home address?
7621 South Chandler Road, St. John's, Michigan. But
Are
I'm
you
staying
employed?
out in yes, I just got a job a couple days ago.
Where's that?
It's on the east side. Right now I'm working with my cousin, rebuilding houses.
Okay, so you're not working with a company, you're working with your cousin?
Yeah, he's our boss's name is Adam. That's all that I know. I've been trying to stay in Lansing because my mom's in the hospital.
Okay, actually, your hearing is going to be November 8th at 1:30, okay?
Okay.
Okay, did you get a notice for that date?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You said someone's in the hospital?
Yeah, my mom had a stroke a few days ago.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear about your mom. I hope that she recovers. Let's see. Did you want to address bond counsel?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. So, Mr. Cheney, so he did reference that he's currently that he will be working soon, and that Mr. Cheney does have family here, lived here all of his life. He does have limited criminal history. He's not a threat to himself or to the public. The violations are not violent in nature. And, as he referenced his mom, he's dealing with a lot of family problems. And so we will request, we'll ask the court to consider a PR bond at this moment, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, well, sir, you have a history of failing to appear in court, specifically before this court. You were supposed to be before me back on February 8, 2021. You failed to appear. And then you failed to appear again. You failed to appear again on October 18th.
Judge, I was kicked out of the Zoom meeting that you had on the 18th.
You were
I
kicked out of
tried.
the Zoom.
Yes, I was kicked out of the Zoom meeting. I don't know if it was because of bad signal, but when I tried to get back in, it wouldn't let me.
Okay. Did you call the court and let them know that you were having technological issues on that date?
I didn't have the phone number for it. I was looking for it.
Okay, you don't, do you have your probation officer's number?
Yes.
Okay, because your probation officer is the one that is calling this hearing. So you could have contacted your probation officer and told him that you weren't able to log in, you were having issues. Do you know that?
Yeah, I didn't think about that at the time, Judge.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and grant a PR bond of $500. You need to make sure you return to court for your hearing, okay?
Yes.
Do you have any questions today?
No, ma'am.
Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, did I get your number, sir? Can you update me with your phone number, Mr. Cheney?
989-668-1215.
Okay, thank you. You're all set. We'll see you on the 8th of November. Javon Walker. Okay, are you Mr. Javon Walker?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Javon Deshaun Walker. File number here is 21-02464 SM. Counsel appearance.
Yes, Bryce Mydell, student attorney, practicing law pursuant to TR 8.120 under the supervision of Assistant Public Defender Lawrence Sutter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Walker. I have here a misdemeanor complaint, and it alleges that on or about July 7, 2021, at the area of 2167 Forest Road, which is in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, that you did allegedly contrary to law in count 1, commit the act of malicious destruction of a building less than $200. It alleges that you did willfully and maliciously destroy or injure a building or its appurtenances located at 2167 Forest Road, Lansing, and that building belonged to the Lansing Area Housing Commission, manager being Andrea Bailey, and the amount of the destruction or injury was less than $200. This is contrary to Michigan compiled law 750.3805. That's a misdemeanor with a maximum penalty of 93 days and or $500 in fines, or 3 times the amount of the destruction or injury, whichever is greater. There's a count 2 of domestic violence. It alleges that you did make an assault or assault and battery upon a Keandra Lilly, an individual with whom you had a child in common, or a resident or former resident of your household, or an individual with whom you had a dating relationship, and that this was contrary to Michigan compiled law 750.812. That's a misdemeanor. The maximum penalty is 93 days and or $500 in fines. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. Restitution is also possible, as this offense may have resulted in damage to another individual's property or physical injury or death to another individual. Mr. Walker, do you understand the charge and the maximum penalty associated with the charge?
Yes, ma'am.
You have the right to be represented by an attorney. You're represented by the Office of the Public Defender today for the purposes of your arraignment only. But you have the right to have an attorney represent you at every stage of this criminal proceeding. If you cannot afford to hire your own attorney to represent you, you can apply for court-appointed counsel, and if you qualify, one can be appointed to represent you at the expense of the public. Is he requesting court-appointed counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Walker, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say, anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty, or you can stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a trial in this matter, and at the time of trial, you have the right to have the prosecution prove each element of the charge against you. They have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand that?
Yes.
You're scheduled for a pre-trial conference before me, Judge Kristen Simmons, in courtroom 4. It's going to be on Monday, November 8th at 1:30 p.m. Did you get a copy of your notice to appear?
Yes.
Okay. How would your client like to plead today, sir?
Oh, not guilty.
The court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Mr. Walker, are you employed?
Yes.
Where do you work?
I work full-time at the Michigan Athletic Club, and I coach at Everett High School.
You coach where?
Everett High School.
What's your home address?
3308 Penrose, Penrose Drive. That's Lansing, Michigan, 48911.
What's your phone number?
7-303-9575.
Did you want to address bond counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. So Mr. Walker has informed me that he has never failed to appear, and so appearing to his next court hearing will not be an issue. Mr. Walker is currently employed, as he had referenced, and doesn't want to lose his job, so he will obey all court orders. Mr. Walker does have dependents, 4, that depends on him, and so he's likely to go to court on time and obey all court orders. Mr. Walker does have family here. Mr. Walker has lived here all of his life. And Mr. Walker does have past minor and non-assaultive convictions. So reoccurrence of violence is not likely, given his past convictions, convicted record. And so we will ask the court to consider a PR bond so he can be released, maintain his employment, and continue to support his dependents, Your Honor. Thank you.
Court will grant the request for a personal recognizance bond. I'll issue a bond of the amount of 500 personal recognizance. Mr. Walker, you need to make sure you come to court for all of your future court dates, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Your pretrial back is going to be via Zoom, so you just know how to log in with your video, okay?
Yes.
Okay, you're not to be within 1,500 feet of wherever Miss Keandra Lilly lives, wherever she works, wherever she goes to school. You're not to be within 1,500 feet of anywhere where she is. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not to have any communication with her directly or indirectly. So that means you can't talk to her. You can't ask anyone else to talk to her. You can't text her. You can't DM her. No communication at all. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a problem?
No.
While out on bond, you're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to use, purchase, or possess alcohol or drugs unless you have a valid prescription. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of this court. You're not to possess or purchase a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. Do you have any questions for the court regarding your bond conditions?
No, ma'am.
Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. You're all set, Mr. Walker. Charles Miles. Are you Charles Miles?
Yes, ma'am.
We're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Charles Dwayne Miles. This is file number 21-02779 SM. Counsel appearance.
Attorney Lawrence Sutter appearing today on behalf of Mr. Miles for the purposes of arraignment.
Okay, and Mr. Miles, today's the date set for arraignment. We'll also be addressing some other issues that are pending here. However, I have a misdemeanor complaint, and it alleges that on or about May 13, 2021, at the area of 2444 Rio Road, City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan, that you did allegedly, contrary to law, commit the act in count 1 of domestic violence. It alleges that you made an assault or assault and battery upon a Felicia Amos, an individual with whom you had a dating relationship, and that this was done contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 750.812. Restitution is possible as this offense may have resulted in damage to another individual's property or physical injury or death to another individual. This is a misdemeanor with a maximum penalty of 93 days and or $500 in fines, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. You understand the charge, sir, and the maximum penalty attached to the charge?
Yes, ma'am.
You have the right to be represented by counsel. You are represented by the Public Defender's Office today for the purposes of arraignment only, but you have the right to have an attorney represent you at each hearing or each stage of this criminal proceeding. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, court-appointed counsel can be appointed to represent you at the expense of the public if you qualify. Is he requesting court-appointed counsel?
He is.
Yes.
Mr. Miles, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything that you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty, you have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a jury trial in this matter. At the time of trial, you have the right to have the prosecution bring sufficient evidence to prove each element of the charge of domestic violence, and they have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
For the purposes of today's arraignment, how would your client like to plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Mr. Miles, are you currently employed?
Unemployed.
What's your home address?
2444 Rio Road, South Rio Road. Well, Rio Road.
Okay. The address of the alleged victim?
No, that's my sister's address. She was visiting.
Okay. What's your phone number?
7-885-8668.
Repeat that. It cut out in the beginning.
517-885-8668.
Currently scheduled for pretrial conference before Judge Louise Alderson. It's going to be Tuesday, November 9th at 10:30 in the morning. Did you get a copy of your notice to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I have here the matter of the people of the city of Lansing versus Charles Dwayne Miles. This is file number 21-01340. And Mr. Miles, you were supposed to be before Judge Alderson back on September 20th, and you failed to appear. What happened?
I tried to get on the Zoom thing. I couldn't get it going, so I came down here and I couldn't get in the courtroom, so I just grabbed another paper. I ended up missing the date because I grabbed the paper, but I tried to do it again. By the time I figured it out, it's too late.
You came to the courthouse on September 20th?
After I couldn't get it to go through, I came downstairs. I went downstairs and the guy showed me it's some papers at the door that is for the courthouses or whatever. And he told me to just go back through it again, but I couldn't get it to go.
Why didn't you just come upstairs to the courtroom?
I guess the officer downstairs told me it's the way I was doing it through the Zoom.
The officer downstairs can't stop you from coming to upstairs to the courtroom. You have
No,
court.
he didn't.
The building is open to the public.
Yes, ma'am. I thought I'd grab the paper to try to do it again.
And so when you didn't make any communication with the court, why didn't you follow up and let them know you had technical issues?
But another court date too that I was on set that I was gonna have my lawyer. I had another court date in Eaton County that I got taken care of at the same time. I just got crossed up and mixed up with it. That's about it. I have no excuses for it.
Okay. That matter will be reset for pretrial, and that will be on November 8th at 10 o'clock before Judge Alderson. Did you get a copy of that notice to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
And I also have here case number 20L2577241 and 20L2594851, both of which have a default on it. One is a speeding 1 to 5 over that is from September 24th, 2020 in the area of South King Boulevard and Hammond Street. You owe $240 on that for a default judgment. When are you going to pay that?
I'm currently waiting on my unemployment. They cut it off again, so I'm still waiting on that. But I can pay something on it next week.
How much you going to pay next week?
I can pay at least $50 maybe, if that's possible. Hey, can I say something real quick?
Give me just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, and in the other file, it's another speeding 1 to 5 over. This one's from August 3rd, 2020, and this was in the area of Turner Street in Thomas. You defaulted on that one. You owe $240. You got to make a payment on that one next week?
Yes, ma'am. I'll try to make 50 on that one too.
Okay, and you wanted to say something, sir?
thought I had it mixed up. You was asking me about the court date or something I was supposed to be coming to. Was you asking me about the ticket? Because as far as the domestic, I didn't know I had that on me. But the ticket,
No, you didn't
that's what I
have,
was
I'm
talking.
talking about the ticket. Yeah, I'm talking about the driving while license is suspended.
Oh, okay. That's all I'm saying. I'm all right.
Okay. Yeah, you have not yet had a court date for the domestic violence.
Yes, ma'am.
That first date's going to be on the 9th. And then the day before that will be the driving while license is suspended. So make sure you appear for both those dates, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, counsel, did you want to address bond?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Mr. Miles did say that he is currently unemployed. He was employed doing temp work for a temp agency in Lansing, and unfortunately, as is the case with many people, that work disappeared during the pandemic. And so he lost his work there about 6 months ago. He is hopeful that that will start up again soon, but as it stands right now, he is unemployed. He did also reference the fact that he lives with his sister. He's a lifelong resident of Lansing and has significant ties to the community, including 2 children in the area that are dependent upon him. He reports to me that any prior assaultive convictions and any prior failures to appear in court happened about 10 years ago, with the exception of the driving while license suspended failure to appear that he is appearing on today, which appears to have been possible communications and some technological issues. So I am hopeful for Mr. Miles that from here on out, he will continue appearing in court when he is ordered to do so. Given that, I'm going to be requesting a personal recognizance bond be set for Mr. Miles. Thank you.
The court will issue a bond in the amount of $500 personal recognizance while out on bond, sir. You're not to be within 1,500 feet of wherever Felicia Amos lives, wherever she works, wherever she goes to school. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not to have any communication with her directly or indirectly. No text messaging, no DMs, no phone calls, no asking anyone else to deliver a message on your behalf. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
You need to make sure you report to all your future court dates. You're not to use, purchase, or possess alcohol or drugs of any kind unless you have a prescription that's valid for the drug. You're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to travel outside of the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to purchase or possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. Do you have any questions today about your bond conditions?
No, ma'am.
Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
All set, sir.
is that bond for the domestic or is that for the suspended or both?
I'm doing 500 PR on both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Are the other two referred to collections, ma'am?
Yes, he's gonna pay $25 or $50 each, he said, next week, and the rest will be referred to collections.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bryce Wilcox?
Ma'am, jail staff's advising me that it's probably better to keep in ISO. He has a medical condition where it's better that he's kept in isolation. So I'm gonna get him logged in on the iPad.
Okay, is that the same with Antonio Davis?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like Mr. Wilcox first?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And just so your honor knows, I believe with both Mr. Davis and with Mr. Wilcox, our office is already appointed to these cases.
Mr. Wilcox?
Sorry.
We're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Bryce Thomas Wilcox. File number is 21-00556. FY. Can I have your appearance, counsel?
Attorney Lawrence are appearing today on behalf of Mr. Wilcox for the purposes of arraignment only.
Thank you. And Mr. Wilcox, you were picked up on a bench warrant on this because you failed to appear in court. You were supposed to be here back on October 15th. And you never appeared. What happened?
Well, one, my mom was sick, and then with the COVID symptoms, and my shoulder, I was supposed to have surgery, so I was at the doctor's for my shoulder, and then I tried to get a hold of my lawyer to talk to him about what was all going on. Honestly, I was trying to run. It was just pure, just everything going on.
Okay. Okay, we've been here before, sir, because you were here about a month ago, actually exactly a month ago, and you told me just about the same exact thing. I wrote it down in the file.
But when I got out of jail, my house was robbed. My house was broken into. My house was robbed. My car was thrown out of impound when I just got out of jail last time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, this matter is going to be reset. You've got a felony pending here. You failed to appear multiple times on this. You gotta get into court so this could be resolved.
I understand.
So your preliminary examination is now going to be set for Thursday, November 4th at 9:30. That's next Thursday, okay?
Okay.
Let me get an updated home address for you.
You got a home address?
Yes.
3909 Birchfield Drive.
Okay. What's your phone number?
1-7-619-8534.
Is it 8524?
No, 619-8534.
34. Counsel, did you want to address bond?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. As you have pointed out, and as Mr. Wilcox said, he has failed to appear in court before, and I do understand the nature of these charges. However, I would point out to Your Honor that they are non-assaultive in nature, and as he said, he does have the shoulder injury. He reports to me that he received it in a pretty serious dirt bike crash about 6 months ago. It has been getting progressively worse, and he is scheduled to have surgery on it next week. Given his physical condition and the nonviolent nature of these charges, I'm going to be requesting a PR bond or leave the bond to the discretion of the court. Thank you.
Thank you. The request for PR bond is going to be denied. Mr. Wilcox cannot seem to get himself to court, and he always has a litany of excuses or bad luck as to what's going on and to why he can't resolve his felony matters that are pending now before this court. This matter is scheduled for exam next week, and he's going to have a bond of $5,000, 10%.
So how much is that?
$5,000, 10%.
5,000 or 500 or 5,000 total?
I said 5,000, 10%. So that's 10% of the 5,000.
So 500?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Is there any possibility maybe I can do tether because my finances are?
Yeah, you can have your attorney motion the court next week at the time of your exam for an amended bond, but that's your bond for now. Any additional matters for the record?
Nothing further, just to I suppose remind the court, he is scheduled for surgery next week on his shoulder for the damage being done to it.
Okay, thank you. We're off the record. You're all set, sir.
Mr. Davis, you ready for court, sir? Come up to the window here and talk to the judge.
Okay, is this Antonio Davis?
You gotta speak up a little bit.
Okay, Mr. Davis, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Antonio Bradley Davis. File number is 21-01163 SM. Counsel appearance.
Thank you, Your Honor. Attorney Lawrence set our appearance on behalf of Mr. Davis for the purposes of arraignment.
Okay, in this file, because I have several files for you, sir. What's happening? Sir, can you stand next to the door, please? Can you hear me?
You gotta speak up, sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Today's the date set for an arraignment. On this file, I have a a misdemeanor complaint. It alleges that on or about January 31st, 2021 at 1004 East Michigan Ave, City of Lansing, Ingham County, that you did, contrary to law, commit the act in count 1 of a retail fraud, second degree. It alleges that you, while Rite Aid was open to the public, that you did steal property of the store that was offered for a sale at the price of less than $200, and that this is a second or subsequent offense notice. And it further appearing that on November 19, 2019, said defendant was previously convicted of violating attempt retail fraud third degree under MCL 750.356D4 in 54A District Court. And therefore, this violation of MCL 750.356D4 constitutes retail fraud in the second degree. This is a misdemeanor. Maximum penalty is 1 year and or $2,000 in fines, or 3 times the value difference in price of stolen property obtained or attempted to be obtained, whichever is greater. It states to impose a fine of 3 times the value. The defendant must admit the amount, or it must be determined by the trier of fact at trial. The court may order reimbursement to state or local government for expenses incurred in relation to the incident, including but not limited to expenses for emergency response and prosecution. Do you understand the charge there and the maximum penalty attached to that charge, sir?
Yes.
I couldn't hear you?
Yes.
Thank you. You have the right to be represented by counsel. You are represented by the Public Defender's Office for the purposes of your arraignment today only, but you have the right to have an attorney represent you at all of your future court dates. If you cannot afford to hire your own attorney, you can request court-appointed counsel to be appointed to represent you at the expense of the public. Is he requesting court-appointed counsel?
He is, Your Honor.
Mr. Davis, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a jury trial in this matter. At the time of your jury trial, you have the right to have the prosecution prove each element of the charge against you. They have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand that?
Yes.
How's your client want to plead today?
Plead guilty, or plead not guilty, Your Honor.
The court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. You're currently scheduled for a pretrial conference before Judge Louise Alderson. It's scheduled for November 9th at 10:30 in the morning. Did you get a copy of that, sir? Did you get a copy of your notice? Okay. What's your home address?
24 Artisan.
I can't hear you. I need you to put your mouth down where the opening is. What's your home address?
24.
Repeat it.
24 Artisan.
Thank you. That's in Lansing?
Is that in Lansing? Yes.
What's your phone number?
410-5247.
Okay. I have file or case number 19L 2538341, which a bench warrant was issued because you owe $174. You were supposed to pay that money back in February of 2021, and you never paid. When do you plan to pay this?
I just started back with my uncle working, so I can pay every few weeks.
I can't hear anything you're saying.
I can pay the next few weeks.
Okay, I'm gonna refer these to collections so you can make a payment plan with that. I have file number, well, the matter of the city of Lansing versus Antonio Davis. This one has file number 21-01879. You were supposed to appear before Judge Alderson back on August 19th for a pretrial, and you did not appear. Where were you?
Like I had lost my phone. I just got a new phone, and I don't remember. They didn't get a notice.
Okay, so you do know court's open to the public. You could have come in public for your court date. You knew that?
Yes.
Why didn't you come to court then?
Didn't know the date.
Okay, thank you. That matter will be reset. Your new pretrial is going to be November 8th at 9:30. Did you get a copy of your notice for that date?
Yes.
Okay, and this is the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Antonio Davis. And the file number on this one is 21-00306FY. Okay, you were supposed to appear for a probation violation arraignment back on July 27th at 10:30. You did not appear. Where were you?
At work.
I can't hear you. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm not feeling too well.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The probation violation states that you violated the terms of your probation by failing to sign the probation orders and return to the probation officer as instructed by probation. The order was reviewed on June 22nd, 2021. It says you failed to report to probation on July 1st, 2021, as instructed to you on June 22nd, 2021. It states that you failed to pay fines and costs in the amount of $87 as of June 18, 2021, but you have a total amount due of $1,035. It also states that you failed to submit to PBT and/or your analysis and pay the fees directed, and that you never began testing as referred by probation officer and ordered by the court. You failed to complete the CBT programming and paid the fee to provide proof of completion, and that you failed to obtain and maintain employment because no verification of employment had been provided to probation. So you have the right to have a contested hearing on that, sir, and you have the right to be represented by counsel during the contested hearing. If you're found to be guilty of the violations, your probation can be terminated. You can be sentenced to jail time. Your probation can be increased, or you can get additional sanctions imposed for violation of your order of probation. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
Is he requesting court-appointed counsel for the probation violation?
He is, Your Honor.
The court will enter a plea of not guilty, and note that you're requesting court-appointed counsel to represent you for that hearing. Your probation violation hearing is scheduled for November 2nd, 2021 at 11 o'clock. Counsel, did you want to address bond?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Davis, as he said, does have a job. He does home renovations with his uncle. He's been doing that for some time. He does also live in the area. He lives with a friend and has been in the area for quite some time. Given the nonviolent nature of these charges and the nonviolent nature of the probation violation allegations, I'm going to be requesting a personal recognizance bond be set for Mr. Davis so that he may continue working. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis doesn't appear for court. I have here multiple failure to appears, all on different dates. So the excuse that you lost the date doesn't hold up for each of these. There's just no effort being made for him to be compliant and appear in court. So because of that, personal recognizance bond would be inappropriate. So bond will be issued in file number 21-01163, 1,010%. Need to make sure you come to court for all of your future court dates. You understand that, sir?
Yes.
The file 19L2538341 will refer that $174 to collections. You can make a payment plan with them. File number 21-01879. Bond will be 1,010%. File 21-00306. Bond will be 1,010%. Do you have any questions today, sir?
No.
Any additional matters for the record?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. You're all set, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.